try it now. Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I think you just missed the opening, but
Yes.
Kathy, just give background to while we're here today, looking at your project, and if you guys just want to present, probably just focusing on the changes from last time because we all have seen it once before.
Hal, do you want to change? You want to try those?
Sure. Good evening. For the record, my name is Hal Chuba. I'm a consulting engineer with office in Dartmouth, Massachusetts, and I was involved in the design of the plans. Also with us is Paul Tariff, who's the attorney representing the applicant. As you remember, a few months ago, we had our first meeting. At that time, it did include 2 lots that were controlled by the applicant. At this time, the applicant was able to control another lot, which is 1272. And this is, if you look at the, if I can share my screen, or do you have the plans in front of you? Let me try to.
You should be able to share.
Okay. No. So what happened here? Let me figure this out because I'm not sure. I had it up on the screen and I don't see it now.
Yeah, we're looking at your email right now. We're just looking at your email.
Yeah, but it should pop up here, but
You can pull it up.
Yeah, better if you can.
I know.
yeah, let me go to sheet number 2.
You're looking.
If you excuse me, the files are so big, so it takes like few seconds to regenerate. So,
Yep.
Do you see the plans on the screen anyways?
No.
We see a list of plans, but not actual any plans. It's your file directory we're looking at.
Okay, let me try to share again.
I can pull up the packet too if this doesn't work. Yeah, let me just, I'll try to share on our end.
Okay, you don't, okay. Yeah, that would be the second sheet. This is the cover sheet. If you can go to the second sheet. So basically, we have combined 3 lots with the total of 8 structures on them. I believe you remember from last application, there was the gas station with the canopy and the 5 residential units on the back. Now we have another structure to the west of the gas station. So we will be raising a total of 8 structures. And if you want to go to the next, well, actually sheet number 5 would be the next, the one. Okay, and this is the site plan, yeah. With the site plan, if you recall at the last meeting, we're applying on the road application, and at the last application, I believe there was a sentiment that the application did not meet the requirement because the building wasn't close to the road. So what we did, we went back to the drawing boards and we have a completely different design. If you can go back one more, please, if you don't, that's the grading. Yeah, this is the site plan. So with the site plan layout, we propose. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. With the site layout, so we have a new site layout. That, as you see, the proposed building is on the southwest corner of the lot and will be placed 10 feet, 11 feet away from the street line. So this way we can we can meet the requirements of the road application, and we eliminated the parking in the front. Now the parking's to the back of the building and to the side of the building. We've also eliminated one pump. Before we had 5 pumps that were facing the street. Now the pumps kind of to the side of the building, and we were able to increase the drive-through lane stacking. We also provided parking for the apartments that would be placed on the north west corner of the lot, away from the gas station, separated from the parking that is dedicated to the retail space. We've added landscape to the front, to the rear, and to the sides. We are able to meet now the required 20-foot buffer in the rear and the 20-foot buffer in the front. We do still have to ask for some relief from zoning, but under this application, I believe all the relief would be by special permits. We also added lighting. We revised the stormwater. We will be collecting all runoff from the site onto a stormwater collection system where it's treated and infiltrated into the site. So we will not increase any runoff. We also connected the sidewalk to the existing sidewalk on Route 28. We've had several meetings with the planning, and this is like site plan 5.0 improved, and I think you can see the differences from the previous one, and we believe that this will get us through the planning board. Our next meeting would be with the DRC meeting, DRC on 10/18. That's next Tuesday, and following that, I believe in October, we are meeting with the planning board, and at this time, I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
I want to talk about the economic benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about the economic benefits? I know there were questions last time on job creation. that type of thing.
Sure, I'll handle that. There's a number of economic benefits to the town. First, with regard to employees, I think we only have 2 employees who work at the J-Mart currently, and that's going to go for the whole property up to 10 employees. There's going to be 2 businesses there, the gas station, convenience store, and a Dunkin' Donuts franchise as well. So there are going to be a number of additional jobs there. Dunkin' Donuts are going to just alone are going to create most of those. They'll have a lot of full-time positions with some including some benefits. Town of Yarmouth is going to benefit from an upgraded septic system, which is going to handle the site. Currently, there are 5 septic systems on the site, 4 of them serving the residential units and 1 for the gas filling station. So that's all going to be Title V compliant, which is always a plus. There are a total of 5 residential units on the site, of which 1 is a 2-bedroom and 4 are 1-bedroom units. They're constructed in approximately 1936 and have a total of 6 bedrooms between all of them. There'll be a total of 4 new residential units with 8 bedrooms on the 2nd floor of the mixed-use building. And that's going to allow smaller families to remain in town, which I think is probably the biggest economic benefit to the town of all. And finally, there's also going to be tax revenue benefit for the project. We had to recalculate, obviously, off of the fiscal 23 tax base, and tax rate. Currently, the 3 properties result in the generation of real estate taxes of $9,295. And once this project is complete, again, we estimated it's still going to be about $4 million in value based on the 2003 mill rate, which could change, but even at that rate, it's going to generate real estate taxes of $36,720, which is an increase of about $27,500 for these properties. It's also going to hopefully generate economic benefit in the form of creating an incentive for other properties in the area that are really not up to snuff, as I would say, for that part of town and on Route 28. It's going to hopefully be the domino that pushes them to do the same thing. So A lot of economic benefits for this property. And again, by adding that extra lot, we really were able to get a lot more amenities, a lot more protection, and a lot less relief needed for the project.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I just have one question. Mr. Tardif mentioned the extra lot. I'm wondering, can you just put back up the layout, Kyle, for the public to see? And if you could outline where the extra lot appears, that's different from
This one.
where we saw it before and the public saw it before.
Right. On the far, I'll call that the west side of the property. We added that piece right there. That actually has an old building stuck in the woods. I think it says pottery on it currently. And it's pretty much falling down, but it was land that the applicant had and was able to incorporate it into the project, which opened up a number of different possibilities for us, including moving a lot of the recreation space to that back, we'll call it the L back there on the far north side of the property. Parking specific for the residents up there, which gives them a little bit more privacy. You know, the queue line longer, but also the buffer between the residential neighborhood and that queue line is much better. The pumps, we got those down from I think it was either 5 to 4 or 6 to 4. I'm not sure which, but it reduced it and got them behind the front facade of the building, and all the parking actually behind the front facade of the building, which was a trick. So, but that's what you know, an extra little piece did for us. Just it laid this thing out differently, and we're lucky that Mr. Ahmad had that property.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tardif.
You're welcome.
We're just going over the road application.
Yeah, no, I think it's
Anyone else have any questions?
great. I also want to thank Paul for supplying the economic data as well. That was very helpful.
You're welcome.
Okay. So we're going to need a motion to support the road application to the planning board. Someone make that?
I so move.
We have second. Do we have any discussion? Further discussion on it? Okay. All those in favor?
I
Opposed? So voted. Okay.
I have to abstain.
Okay. Good, you're not. All right.
Thank
you.
thank you very much.
all. Thank you for your
Thank you.
citizenship with the town.
No,
Appreciate that.
thank you very much. It's a much improved application. We appreciate the time and effort that you put into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, kids. Sorry, Mike.
Thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda, actually, 2 and 3 are kind of working together. I'll explain in a moment, but we got the vacant storefront program. Now, when we last met a couple weeks ago, we had a presentation by folks from Mass Office of Business Development.
Yeah.
LPD.
Yeah,
And it was a great presentation. And because of that presentation, some of us here felt that it would be prudent for us to look at potential properties in the community to perhaps be considered for an application. So Maria went out, I had the chamber go out, and myself went out and looked at different locations to come up with under the precepts of the program, the vacant storefront program, to see what might be included as a potential application. So I'll turn it over to Maria first.
so my task was to, I think we also agreed that we were going to start with Route 28
Yes.
with the advice of the MOBD, Anne Marie Kirsten, who's the director. And because we don't have a downtown, that she was amenable and thought the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council would be amenable to us doing swaths along Route 28. So I was tasked with the very south part of Route 28. And I did 2 pieces. One was where I'm going to call it the Ace Plaza. I don't know. Is there another name for it that I? The one of the Ace plazas, right, on Route 28. And so the vacancy rate there is 21%. I did have a nice conversation with Chuck Carey, who is the broker for the former Napa location. So there are 4 units, but he said that the landlord is likely to only want at a maximum 2 tenants. So I used 2 available sites in that. So that means that's sort of delineated. Then I took the area and all the way down Route 28, right before the bridge on Route 28, and then onto North Street. And that was we thought we could fortify this as a potential vacant storefront site, because there will be the development from the bridge renovations from the state. And the state likes that. They like coupling that. So that vacancy rate was 30. So where the Princess Cleaners was,
Right.
next to Carluccio's, across the street, and then right before you get to the bridge, there are 2. They're commercial. One's for sale. The other looks, not quite sure. I'd probably have to talk to the building department, but for our purposes, it was. I remember when it was. This is Carluccio's. This is the Speedway.
These properties here.
Yeah, there's 1, 2. Here's a picture. Anyway, that vacancy rate was 33%. So obviously,
It meets the requirements.
it makes it. Yeah, it makes it. Well, I don't know, Steve. Remember, there aren't really requirements. We just have to make our argument. And
Well, the guidelines, I'll use that word then, guidelines, the requirements, 8 to 10%. Sorry.
so, yeah,
For
and that,
vacancy for
I think
one.
it's great because, and then the only piece that I did not do yet, but I'm sure that the Kathy can help us on, is what additional improvements are gonna be made along the swath. I know that there's gonna be public parking, but anything else like sidewalks or something like that would be helpful. So
Okay.
that's my piece.
So next up from there, I was charged with going to the Yarmouth Plaza. And I looked at the Yarmouth Plaza, facing the storefronts. From left to right, there's a total of 15 storefronts. And of those 15, there are 5. So we have 40% vacancy.
That's what the R&B is.
Correct. Yes.
That's,
And it's spread throughout.
Stuff around in order to expand the R&D?
No.
they
No.
are good, yes.
So there is, so maybe one of them vacancies is
Yes.
out of the 15, if you include that one or take that one away, then it's 5. There's 5, so 30% of the
I still.
storefronts are vacant. So now the question we all have is, I'll come back in a second. Just one more. Mary did some analysis as well, from the chamber side, a little further north, west. I should say.
So we started out at Great Island Plaza to Parker's River. And so it was it was a lot different scenario. So we had 4 different buildings, but we had 18, properties. And 14 of them have vacant storefronts. So that alone, if I have my numbers right. And then Tom went out and actually went all the way from the Barnstable line to Parker's River. So I gave Steve a packet for each of you. Yeah, those-
This is yours, Mary?
Yes, so we did it different. So this is where we need to get all our data
Yeah, well,
together, but.
We can ask anybody what format that, there's actually, the application gives us a
Yep.
format.
there's a couple of steps so prior to that. So I think we got enough information here, guys and gals, to do a couple of things. One is to make a decision whether it makes sense to file an application. A, and when, B, and second of all, what areas do we want to select? So based on that, I got from our conversation that the state seemed to animate that they seemed receptive to rather than having one distinct area, that they'd be open to looking at other areas along the way. Did you get that?
Oh, absolutely.
So
100%.
in other words, instead of say in the Yarmouth Plaza would be the applicant. Because of its size and it all being in one location. They might look at other spots along the way. But we've got to firm that with her.
No, I'm absolutely certain.
All right,
I bet $1 on it.
all right. So that's one thing. What do we want to, do we want to select all these areas or do we want to focus on one or two? Because the other side of that is going to be, okay, we're going to submit the application. But as part of that application, we need to have an agreement with the owner and the tenant, but also we need to come up with dollars as to what the match request is going to be. So the next discussion we have to have is where are we getting those match dollars?
So I just threw some things together for you guys that includes guidelines. And Anna Marie, so part of that is that I think, okay, my position, and if I'm being so bold, is because I've done it. I did this in the Fall River, City of Fall River. Yes, we identify I think we throw them all in because they could reject one, but we might as well do it all. I think the vacancy rate is significant enough. Two, our argument is that we don't have a downtown and that they are amenable to these swaths, if you will, or districts. We should come up with a vacant storefront district because of the overlay district. I don't know. So we'll consult with the planning department about what you want us to call. And then she actually suggested that we might want to consider is, so the next pieces are other than the application itself. But while we do that, we could be thinking about our guidelines, what our program would look like. And she said, this is to me from email from Anna Marie Kirsten, director of the Mass Office of Business Development, dated September 20th, 2022. Maybe the town would like to create a sliding award schedule based on the number of months the business will remain open. For instance, $10,000 if the business is open 12 months a year, $7,500 if the business is open 10 months of the year, $5,000 if the business is open 8 months of the year. Also, it does not have to be outright cash. It can be reimbursement for signage. Okay, so signage up to a certain amount, a no interest loan that is forgivable after they have been open for a couple of years. One caveat, the EACC has not seen a sliding cash match scale, so she can't guarantee anything. However, I think it's a good idea if we think there's a carve out for certain businesses that we know historically are open only a certain portion of the year. And I think she goes, I just think the longer the business stays open, should determine the size of the award. She goes, I think the board, meaning the EAC, would like that. So I think we have room to make this tailor-made for the town of Yarmouth.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I know one thing we need to do is determine how long the vacancies have in fact been vacant. The storefronts have been vacant.
We just need to certify. No, we just need to certify to the best of our knowledge. The business has been vacant for a year. I mean, quite honestly, I mean, if we all go back in our memory to the COVID time, nothing was happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. Then where do we get the match?
Well, I don't know enough about our budget, but it seems to me, couldn't we pull from what we have in our bucket?
Yeah.
So can we do that?
So we have some sources. We have community development block grant, CDBG would be a source. Tourism funds would be a source. Local dollars would be a source. Those can come in various ways, like a signage. Like you heard, as an example, one of the towns that Anna Marie was talking about used money it was getting from the signage rental fee as a match. So there's creative ways that we look at local matches here too. But so those are some potential matches that we have.
Just sort of formulating one in my head.
Yeah.
Is it up to us to find the money?
Yeah, because the way the program works is a one-to-one match. So whatever the request is from the state, we have to match that. So
My
We
point
will
is
do
that
it.
couldn't we recommend to the select board that they find this
Yes.
money? And I mean, I'm just thinking that there's a lot of, the $10,000 is the threshold that we're trying to reach. There's a lot in free cash. There's thousands of $10,000 in free cash.
I like your thinking.
So finding the money isn't necessarily.
No, I think you're right. I think we should just come up with a lot of alternatives.
I mean, if we
And
end
then
up finding,
see which one sticks.
we end up finding 12 locations, we're asking the select board to find $120,000 maximum.
So the state, their expression at the state is they want to know that the town is skinny.
Right,
Right.
of course.
And this is the case in Worcester, the locality can throw more on the table. The state will have its match and it'll be capped at that match amount, but we could throw more. Yarmouth could throw more on the table, so desire to do it. So in the case of Worcester, you get this business downtown, which was a market, they have more residential housing downtown. They threw $30,000 on the table, Worcester did, and kept it requesting to the state for 10, so it
So I
was a
have-
$40,000.
Is that really nice?
I mean, is it,
What if we went to the Realtor Association and say, for a little, if we started a foundation or something, they put some money in the pot, right? Because that's just going to improve their ability to market their clients' properties. I don't know.
And if I can just say, I
Go
talked
ahead.
to Ryan Castle the other day, and they actually have a grant program that might actually
Oh, wow.
be eligible for the match.
Oh, wow.
So they
And
have
Ryan
Castle, he's the Cape Cod Realtors Association CEO.
See?
So when I was talking to Ryan the other day, we were chatting about that. And I was even thinking like local sponsorships, maybe there's a bank that would even support that. So if they're helping to fund that particular project, right, that business, they might actually sponsor it as well as a
I
match.
can certainly talk to.
looks like they want to cover a lot of
Bless you,
Yes.
Kyle.
offer up from Moss's.
Yeah, I think you're,
Of course, even the CPC money for all,
So what
with
What-
CVC.
so assuming,
Preservation Act.
No, it cannot be.
okay,
There's certain buckets that has to go into. I let Kyle, I defer to Kyle.
This year, rehabbing a historic facility or adding housing.
Does it have to be,
Has to be one of the four: recreation, housing, open space.
we've got some
or-
historic strip malls in Yarmouth.
Well, on the old, on Main Street,
I
some of
thought
those
actually
ones
that,
are-
I thought there was case law that they said they could open it up, but I could be wrong on that. But notwithstanding that, sorry.
No, I don't want to lose a train of thought, so I think Joe's point was, let's come up with a project and throw some possibilities for funding, but we need to have the match where you recommend, right? So,
Well,
but
can we figure out how much, like the maximum amount of money, assuming all of these are awarded? So we've got 3 and 4. We got 7 on mine.
I did have a question about that. If I'm remembering from the presentation, and I know you sent us the slides, Kyle. Is there any chance you have them in your magic box there?
Sorry, I don't.
Okay. I thought that, and again, referring to your notes from our meeting, that we need to designate a district. So among all of these, I don't think we, oh, you do.
what are
Okay.
you looking for?
Well, I thought it was one property in the district for each, only one at a time
No,
for the tax incentive.
It would eventually be only one at a time. First, you gotta get the district.
Yeah, but the very first thing is, we need to, with the chamber and the real estate people, the Ryan Castles of the world, I think, come to an agreement on what we agree to designate as a vacant storefront district, all with small letters.
Well, absent of a defined downtown, can we just make it 28?
no,
No, I don't
Here's-
think, not from what I heard.
Here's what we need.
So
This is for the
we-
slide.
Thank you.
Address your question, right? We need a map of the district with streets clearly delineated and where vacant storefronts are located on the map, okay? Storefront is deemed vacant, preceding 12 months. Then we need a list of addresses of the vacant storefronts into a GIS ID parcel identifier, and then the name, title, and contact information. So that, along with, where's our money coming from? We need to submit as part of the application.
I think where you were going with that too, and I'm gonna say, municipality may receive 2 vacant storefront projects annually. So we were only,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you, Joe. It was a 2 annual.
so I knew it was a number somewhere too, and
Yeah.
I just found it in my.
So we're looking for $20,000.
Yeah, but we grabbed 2, then the next year we kind of get into a revolving fund maybe of some kind. But I think identifying, we've already more or less looked through. I mean, you've got the map that Maria produced of the Bass River Village area, if you will. And then we've got Mary, I guess you had put this together, the
Correct.
vacant listing, but that's more broad. That's kind of all along 28 if I am reading
So
this.
there's 2 different areas. So
Okay.
from 594 to 612 is right from the Great Island Placid of Parker's River.
And that's a bit of a cluster.
It's a
It's not
huge-
too long.
No, and it's a huge
It's like
cluster because
probably
you
a
have
half a
2
mile at most.
Right, you have 2 plazas that are basically vacant,
Right. The one across from Captain Parker's that's set way back.
correct?
How many vacancies are in there?
6
quite
out
a
of
few.
11.
It's quite a few. So, that cluster seems to be, hey, that could be a district.
I like that one.
The Bass River one,
Especially
Hey,
when
that
you
could
drive
be
No,
in
no, no,
the
no.
summer.
We can have multiple districts
okay,
because we don't have a downtown. The
okay.
argument is we can accept portion, I don't know what to call it, portions, right? So I think that's why we all went out and said, let's choose what we thought were the high vacancy strips, which I think we did,
Yep.
right? And we put them all in, right? So here's what happens, then we're gonna go to the state and the one that I did, it has a 33%, right?
Yep.
The other one has a 21%. They might say, nah, that's too low, right? But they might like this one, right? They might say,
So you're
of the 5 that you're submitting, we'll take 4. Or they might say of the 5 swaths, help me with a word, people. Strips that we're submitting, they'll accept them all.
So you're suggesting that we submit all of them?
Yeah,
Unless-
absolutely.
Okay, but having
Well-
said that,
Well, I think we should, rather than kind of this is a terrible analogy, carte blanche approach. Let's pick the ones that we know seem to work together. I consider that one district, if you will, Maria. They're just across the street from each other. So we got one, and when you combine those 2, maybe we do meet that minimum percentage.
Oh, you mean you want to go
On
from
both
the,
sides.
no, you want to go from the bridge up to like the little caboose?
Up to, Ace Hardware.
Okay,
Duncan,
okay.
we're done, not we're, we're
D'Angelo's.
D'Angelo's.
and you
State.
got it
Right.
across the street, which would be another one.
And we have a road project that we just said was a good idea right across the street.
So can I, just for clarity, the reason that we ended up doing all of West Yarmouth
Yeah.
was because we were trying to also help the town with the diff.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of properties on 28 that still haven't been identified, but that's why we ended up getting this other cluster. So I just
Okay.
want you to clarify, we weren't looking for other sites at that time.
Wouldn't it be
But-
prudent to be strategic about it? To give us a good percentage and whatever viable criteria we're gonna use to identify.
Yeah, what
whether or
are
not
the
the
best ones?
incentive
What ones
district
can we check
for
about?
us-
You know what? Yeah,
For advantages
Yeah.
for the town, based on what we know is coming down the pipe, the DOT work, at the bridge, or wastewater, or what have you, wouldn't we want to package up our most attractive swaths?
so I'm gonna be a pain in the neck for you. I'm gonna give you both sides of that point, but from my perspective, one, targeted incentives, all right, will actually will, as they improve one area, which will then be seen by other people, and it will look like, oh, well, then I want to be in Yarmouth, right? However, the flip side of that is that is like, come to Yarmouth because we're really open for business. We're anybody, wherever you want to locate along Route 28 in these particular areas, you're eligible for that $10,000.
No, I
So
don't-
it's really,
I
however
see
this
that as
board
a
wants
strategic
to
element of the decision.
see, yeah.
I see that exactly as a strategic.
I'm kind of a lame duck here, so I'm not gonna get my feet too wet, but I do think a next important step in terms of, we have ideas about what we think maybe a couple of districts might look like. I would engage Ryan Castle and his group as early as possible to get their sense of which of these, does this make sense? Does this kind of a lumping of these aggregate vacancies together, does this Bass River district make sense? Does the one that Captain Parker's to Great Island Plaza, does that make sense? I
He
think
may
what
sh- he may
getting the
shed
real
some light.
estate people involved, I mean, the property owners have to be, we have to partner with them.
And he may
It's a
shed
partnership with
some
them.
light on what he knows that we are not privy
Yeah,
to.
there might be
The
some
property
owners
across
who
from
just are
Captain
like,
Parker's, where the old billiard hall used to be, I don't know what that's called now, the locksmith is or whatever, near the drive, and they may already, somebody may already have their designs on that, and they may have plans in the works. Why would we want to? We don't even need to get it, we don't need to submit that one, because they've already got it well in hand, and they're not really interested in being regulated any more than whatever their plans would be. Then we move our attention further down the street to someplace where he thinks it might benefit and make it more attractive. They know the driving site's coming, so I wouldn't be surprised if a developer doesn't already have their sites on that strip mall. But that's something that none of us necessarily knows for sure.
Well, I had a long conversation with Chuck Carey, which is between us, but I got a sense that Yarmouth needs a lot of support. That it's more encouraging in other towns.
Can I ask, so for this particular program, if we have a vacant property and we currently know that the owner may be willing to make an investment in the property, is this something for them when we know that there's a potential project, or is it for a vacant property that there is no plans? And this is the incentive for them to do it. I'm trying,
I think it can be done for both. You know,
because
this road application is an example where they don't need anything. They're doing everything on their own. They're gonna create some jobs, they're gonna create some economic development, and they're gonna create some housing. They don't need anything. But down the street, next door, they might be saying, okay, but for $10,000, I could put a sign up that would bring more, that people would notice my business. Or I could do something to the storefront, or I could do something interior wise, for my tenant space that would help me do something. Without that money, I wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
I don't think it's for underutilized. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's for underutilized properties. I think it's for vacant.
so can I give an example?
Yes, I think you're right. I don't think, just before, I don't think this program is for a, okay, let's use that roadhouse application again. There was a dilapidated building in the back of the property. That is not a program. That's not a project for this program, that building.
But can I give an example? So Old King's Coffee.
Yep.
Is a perfect example. So Kate owns that building next door.
Down
Am I
the
gonna
field,
be talking out of school?
No. He's already painted it and they're already getting ready to open it, right?
No,
just to the
it's
right, just to the right.
his vacant building,
Okay.
old Mrs. Mitchell?
right? But he's come onto a stumbling block to develop the site. So could that be an incentive now for them to be able to, okay, if I can get that $10,000 tax credit, then I can invest that back into the property so that I can open.
Yeah, yes.
Well, that building's
It's
been vacant
20,000.
for years.
Correct.
It's not only,
No,
Tax
and
credit
and
for
we
the
know
state.
that they're a good business and we know that they could grow.
You know, I have to say, now that you're bringing that up, Yarmouth is a hard sell, right, to its residents. So perhaps we actually carve out an example. And there are some, in that thing that you were flipping through, there are some case studies. So I mean, we could probably find a landlord that's allow us to use an example and come up with, so this is what it might mean for it.
But again, a single property can't, I don't think, can become a district.
No, but
The
if
first
I'm-
thing we need to do is establish, go to the EACC and request and apply for this district designation. And nothing can happen until we get that designation.
Because then you can have, I mean, just think about the property that we was talking about, actually driving, now you can include the Hunan, which is in here, right? And then can you include that tattoo parlor that burned down, is that, it's got a foundation on it? I mean, is all of that stuff included in the
It's
percentage?
vacant. I mean, if a tenant wants to do their build out,
And
it's
there's a-
rentable.
There's a
right?
vacant house there that's zoned commercial, so I
Right.
counted that one.
Right, so again, I go back to my first question.
Yeah.
is,
Right.
why can't we just do the whole thing in 28? And if the percentages
Oh.
work out,
I think we kind of just going up and down the street, realize that our vacancy rate would be too low. It would be too low. That's why in lieu of having a downtown district or blocks, right? We just have to think of it as we've got different pieces. And then what that will do is just, the notion is that you spur development in these three or four separate areas. And that will actually encourage more development along the way. I don't think and it doesn't preclude the town having its own sort of incentive program either, right? And if hopefully, if it gets, we can actually attract people, that would be great. I think, and I just have one concern that I have, that notwithstanding this which is great for landlords, our businesses are having trouble staying open. They can't get employees. And they can't keep employees. So I just want to I think we need to just manage expectations, that this is not going to be, the silver bullet. And yet we need to say.
No, I'm fine. We remind everyone we started off with, we want to do some economic development. This was a program that had some potential, and I still think it does. And there's a multitude of issues confronting us with economic development.
So,
You just mentioned one, so
Yeah.
housing is another one. So what I'm hearing is everyone thinks it's a good idea, right? Everyone thinks it's a good idea.
great.
What my suggestion would probably be, get together a smaller group and pick out a couple of 2 or 3 of these locations, come back to the bigger group, say, here's what we picked out. And the reasons why we picked it out, right? Or do you want to just do that tonight?
I think we already did that. We sort of picked it out. This,
Yeah, but then I heard there's some other places in between what we looked at that people want to consider too, so.
my thought, and I will repeat it, is that we start small and we can always add to it.
So start small. Do you want to submit an application just for this?
No, I want to, for what we all did.
Okay, all right, so
4 parcels, 4
Areas.
District.
Thank you.
We gotta call them districts.
call it a district, call it a district. Call it a district.
That's the window.
The one that Tom inventoried, the one that Mary inventoried, the one that you inventoried, and we can call it 1 if you want. I can, depending upon if I add the other buildings, whether or not it changes this vacancy rate too much, or maybe at least 2.
I think
or-
they're close enough, geographically.
I know, then I have to add the Riverway and the hotel. I have to, well, that's not big.
The riverways.
Yeah, that's right. But that goes into the total number of
Percentage.
commercial properties.
Yeah.
That's all.
Pulls the
It kind of,
percentage.
it's 3. I mean, I have to just do that. That's all.
I apologize, because I wish I was at the meeting when this was presented last time.
No, okay.
Do these, are there, did they give any criteria as to how you can draw the line? Is it one side, does it have to be both sides of the street?
No.
It can just be plaza, it can just be one mailing address, up to however many?
Yep.
Okay. But I do also think it's important to be prudent, because the property owners on the other side of the street that may feel as though they qualify, and we're gonna have to be pretty thorough about where we draw the line. If there's a property across the street from this zone, this area that we're designating or applying for, the guy says,
Well, they're not.
why didn't I get included? No, this is 28 here.
Yeah, but okay, they're not. They're both, they're occupied.
But to
They're
Joe's
all
point, if
occupied.
there's another area that happens to, like, my answer is, I
Oh.
don't, correct me if I'm wrong. I
Old
think
Cape
the
Coffee
state,
has across the street, they
I think
don't
the
mill.
I think
I
the
understand.
state's,
Yeah,
I think the
sorry.
state's open enough for us to come in and then at a subsequent
Okay.
round of filing for them to be.
Okay, that, I just wanted to suggest that as
And maybe, sorry, and
moving a little
maybe,
slower than voting on districts or areas tonight.
and maybe when you're talking to Emery, is that her name?
Mhm.
Maybe at one point we can do a GIS map of all of 28 to just include it and then identify what we've
Get the crayon.
put in the district, just so that we see it too.
Oh, yeah, I think that's what Bill said he would help us with. Didn't
No,
he?
it's what Bill's asking us to help him with.
Oh, fine.
Right.
I think actually, that's actually, what you suggest is actually very good. So when we write up our own guidelines, we should actually come up with, like, we will consider adding, these, a different district.
How it's
Like,
defined.
we should probably do it simultaneously with the, like, 4 times, or like, at least twice a year.
So can I offer something?
Yes, please.
We have a wonderful volunteer that used to work for Mass DOT,
Yes.
and she could pull up the SKIZ map with all the properties that we've already identified
Okay.
for, she can do that in the next 2 days. for
All
us.
right. Perfect.
That'll be a fun.
She'll just use the
project.
town, the town.
Yeah, I mean,
GIS.
I pulled it up this
Yeah,
afternoon.
the town stuff is really very robust.
And so she could identify that. I think I have that. I have your addresses, which we still need to add a few more.
Yep.
But Annie would be great at that.
For instance, where's that deerskin trading post that's fallen in the ground?
Right, so that's not on here. So
That's
those.
on,
It's a-
that's down. on
Too
this
far
side,
out.
right?
here,
Or is that-
here you
Because it skips over that big commercial.
No,
office
he's
building.
talking about
That-
the one
that
at the-
Building is just because they're fighting with the insurance company.
Is that what then?
But it's still a vacant
Here
property.
you go.
They don't deserve incentive from the town because they're
Yeah. it's a-
fighting the
it's a-
insurance company.
Right, but if I can say for the diff, it's important to
Okay,
identify
doesn't
that. Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
No, I was just trying to see how to get this from 21% up to even higher number if it was right over here.
No. Yeah. We-
Don't,
We were very cautious when we considered our zones, districts, areas.
Couple of things. It sounds like we're all on the same page as far as eventually getting to a point of submitting an application, correct? Yes, okay. Then let me suggest, maybe if I misunderstood correctly, but the person you have, we give her all this information, that person can put this up on the GIS map and identify all the parcels. That might help us all one more time to give ourselves a go around and say, okay, these are the properties that are in, these are the reasons why. And then after we all look at that, maybe before the next meeting, if we have any other suggestions that we might want to add, include, or take off from the districts that we are looking at, we can do that, right?
did you guys, does anything pop up in anyone's mind on 6A?
No.
Dennis
We
Ford
considered
Park.
everything. There was nothing that was clustered enough for us.
We,
Just trying to be inclusive.
no, I was just, well, I think we focused on 28 because of all the work with wastewater and what we see going down the pike and a lot of different reasons. So
Or the,
I don't know if that's a good
what's
point.
the,
though.
what's the gateway district?
That's Mid-Tuck.
Mid-Tech.
It would be more Willow Street where they have
Right.
those two big commercial buildings that a lot of property is vacant. Actually, there's several of them
I mean, near the pond.
near the pond and up towards the railroad. There's that big
Chamberlain
gray.
building.
Is that Chamberlain? Right up by Harvest of Barnstable. That big gray one there.
Yeah, that's Rob Chamberlain.
I think we were focused on Route 20 for a number of reasons, right? It's the wastewater, it is the diff in support, it's the, to show to the state, the sort of coupling of and a strategic effort to pull as many things in the toolbox into the areas. They will see, and they will say, money's coming in from us, from the state, oh, you're putting it in. So I'm comfortable, and I don't know if we need a, I think we're not really ready for a motion or
No,
anything like
no,
that. So
we
it's
just-
just the next work is
Is
for Mary
Mary-
to map it.
Chiva's gonna help us with the mapping. on it,
Thank you.
And then we'll meet
Thank
again.
you.
You can get that out to us before our next meeting, right? We can all look at it and comment on it. Suggestion you and I can work on the mechanics of the application.
Oh,
what
yeah.
we need to do next.
Done, it's easy peasy.
And I think focus, to Joe's point, we should be prepared because we eventually will have to go to the board of selectmen at some point on this. Why are you focusing on 28, not some of these other locations? Because you might get some questions, hey, it's a great idea, but what about my property over here? I got some vacancies.
Right, well,
Okay.
explain the criteria, which is actually the higher the vacancy rate. So that's what this is targeted for. And so Kyle, so you can take that off your to-do list, or it won't be on your to-do list, all right? No worries.
Okay.
Obviously, the final, you get the final version because you have to make sure.
And I wasn't,
No, that's a good point, though. I mean, I
Just
just
thinking
think
that might be
that. I was so
it's
focused
hard to
on.
think of clusters, because I don't spend a lot of
Yeah.
time driving around in those little mid-techs or,
Station Ave, White's Path, I mean, Station
Right.
Ave, that area.
I mean, White's Path is a good example.
Well, I went up and down West Path. We actually talked about the plaza in which I manage. The vacancy rate's really very low.
Yeah.
So, there.
That's a
Because
real
it's
good
this-
corridor as far as growth
Yeah.
and businesses staying in play.
I mean, it's on some level, I just drive down those roads and I don't.
Yeah.
it's just- I'm on those roads so
Yeah.
frequently, they don't even acknowledge.
Yeah.
There's a vacancy or there's not.
So we all set on this then? We got our homework to do for the next.
Yeah,
time?
and I can make a stab at guidelines, because all I'm really gonna do is beg, borrow and borrow.
So,
Are there any other committees you think that would have good value for this? You know? That's a good question.
well, I mean, if,
Not offhand.
I mean, I just, correct me if I'm wrong, referring to you for the visioning work that was done, but I would think that a lot of what came out of visioning is focuses on 28, right?
Oh, it was for, development.
And I know.
And wherever we can cite that as part of the application, I think that effort and the product there is a great document to, kind of verify and continue to let people know that we went through a very serious review
Yeah.
of what we want Yarmouth to be and to look like. So
And then
I encourage whatever committee I'm on, when we're issuing RFPs, when we're issuing, make a reference to the vision plan and attach it somehow. We did for the CPA applications. It's cited in the CPA application. It's attached to it, and those applications will be coming in next month, so.
So
Yeah,
Mary,
question.
when we do the mapping, can we put the overlay district, the proposed district, and what else?
Microphone.
What do you want to overlay?
Well, it would be good to identify this parcel is also in the,
The opportunity zone.
yeah.
Yeah, we have a GIZ. We have a growth incentive zone.
Yeah.
That should be on the GIS, Mary. Maybe the GA, and I think that's pretty much all of 20, if I recall.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say maybe over the next several months, we could actually come up with a vacancy list.
vacancy factor. Yeah, that'd be really good, yeah.
Yeah.
We used to do that all the time.
And then we are showing the other parts of town that we are looking at those
Yeah.
vacancy rates and that we're aware of where those properties are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point.
If
Tom,
I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
thank you very much.
go ahead.
Yes, Tom McMillan for the record. I heard that the Realtor Association had grant, so I think that'd be very important to get a deep dive and find out what that consists of funds wise. And we can also get them into the mix in creating an inventory because they're first hands on the ground and they know where the big stores are. So just want to make sure that was in the minutes. The Realtors Association does have a grant and that would provide some funding for this program.
Excellent. Yeah, good. Good stuff.
I know.
Good stuff.
Do we make that a formal request by letter? from
No,
you?
I think Mary's
I
already,
mean, I'm working. with
she's
them.
working.
Oh, so that's fine, but
So I don't communicate with them.
yeah,
So they-
I was just gonna say, if they need something,
they have both programs,
oh,
So it's what really fits what we're doing. I can just see if they have it.
One thing you could just put in the minutes, Kyle. I don't know how this town goes after ARPA money, even if it's available to the town, but if it is available, we ought to find out how we can access that as a potential match.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna have any luck with that,
No.
but
Is it White County?
the town has already said that they're gonna squirrel away all our money for wastewater.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right, so we have some homework to do. Thank you all for that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks
For,
so much.
this is all economic development. What was my train of thought? The next item on the agenda was the vacant site analysis, and part of what Mary has met with Bill Scott, I have met with Bill Scott. Joe and I have met with Bill Scott on different occasions, to really let him know that this group here, this committee here is willing and able and capable of helping out wherever he sees fit. And to that end, some of the work that we're doing here is for the vacant storefront program is going to assist him as he goes forward with his DIF application, District Improvement Financing Program. Specifically, what he needs to do as he goes along, some of this we can do, some of it we will be hiring a consultant to do, but what he wants to do is take some of the properties that have dilapidated buildings on, as an example, and do an analysis on what's the square footage, what's the highest and best use of that property, if it's feasible. And he'll use that as a baseline of information to create his buildings tip. So once something does happen on that site, how it can happen is us coming up with these ideas and these programs and putting some incentive on the table to help people that are thinking about developing actually stepping forward and doing the development. That'll help him with the gift and wastewater. So we'll be doing some of that as we go forward. He'll kind of give us the clue us in when he wants us to help out with that, but he's heard us and he appreciates our willingness to help out with us going forward. So I don't know if the chamber wants us to add anything to that or we're good. Next. All right, next up is the tourism grant program.
Yeah, you guys ready for me to release it for next year? Same budget, 100,000, same application and everything?
I have my opinion, but we went to a very streamlined, I don't know if you're actually, very streamlined program. We, instead of inviting everyone in, we sent the applications out. Here they are, here's the due date. We didn't even ask for individual interviews. We just say, here, submit your application by such and such a date, and we went on.
okay, I guess I don't understand. Is this us asking for money or
No,
us
no,
asking?
This is our money that we're getting
Our
from the
money.
state to give out. to the community.
We are looking for applicants.
Yes, what we typically do every year is have an application process. And advertise it, people get it, and they respond for 30 days. We give 30 days.
Special events.
Special events.
Is that RFP on the street?
No, I'm asking if you guys want me to put it in.
Well, yeah, we need to get it out.
Yeah, it's not an RFP, it's just kind of a request, it's just a notice, basically.
Does it go, where's it go? Does it go on combines? Because it's for people looking for money.
Giving.
Just local special events.
Goes on our website.
Yep.
And what kind of deadline were we looking at, Kyle?
It's up to you guys. Typically, we give them at least a month.
Yeah.
People always wait till the last minute anyway, so it doesn't really matter how long.
But,
you give them.
but the paperwork going out is ready to go.
Yeah, I'll just have to update it for this year, but it'll take me 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Do we want to qualify how much money?
You guys put us at 100,000 from town meeting.
Do we not want to do that anymore?
Well, last go around, there was
See what we get. If we're not gonna be awarding, we're gonna be recommending, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Good point.
So,
you're Rachel, I like it.
It's not even being, that's just the truth.
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to anticipate
But what was
potential
in,
problems.
what's in is defined. Yeah,
Correct. Well, you guys aren't under any obligation to spend all of that, but you
But-
did allocate 100,000.
right. That's the upside limit.
That-
I mean,
well,
you
that's a
could-
moving
So it's
target.
gonna
You
be.
could-
You
up
could
to-
supplement it with unallocated like you have for years
Yeah.
past. You could, yeah. It's usually we put out up to
Up
100,000.
to 100,000.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Frank, just ask a couple of questions, please. Did we have too many applicants last year? Number one, how many applicants did we have last year? And was the dollar amount enough for the applicants that were submitted?
Yeah, it was like, it was double the amount of money as, I don't have the total applications off the top of my head, but it was like 7 or 8.
So
Two of them were rejected outright.
Right, so there was some events in town that didn't happen because the threshold was not enough.
Well, the events I think still happen, but they just weren't awarded tourism rooms.
In the amount that they asked.
Right.
Well, 2 of them weren't
Or
awarded anything.
anything, right, right.
Right,
The Polar Plunge.
All
and there
points
was
we
like
can
a
give you.
concert at the Narmouth New Church.
right. So if I may, thank you. The St. Patrick's Cape Cod Parade will be issuing another request for the program. But we are going to be issuing another request for a different event on the same day. We happen to be losing a spot in town, the Irish Village, where a lot of the patrons from the parade used to go and contribute to that business after the parade. So they will no longer be there this year. And we were hoping to, weather provided, is maybe have a festival back down at the drive-in site we did years ago, which people really liked. And over the course of the years, along with the Seaside Festival, we asked for money which we feel is appropriate to do our marketing and everything else, and we never hit that goal. The parade seems to be getting bigger, and the amount awarded is less because the applicants seems to be like more, and we all want to be nice and give a fair share, and that's great. But I'm just letting the committee know that this year there'll be another event, possibly on that St. Patrick's Day weekend, and yes, so I didn't know if the amount was enough or not enough. Could be more, and the applicants are, where we have 10 applicants, 100,000. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Yes, Joe.
We had also tabled, I think, a conversation about the definition of sustainability last time we did this, because we were going to potentially change our application based upon some new criteria in terms of defining what is sustainable and what needs help from the economic development community in terms of tourism. So to Tom's point, a new event, absent of any details, a new event would potentially, if it met a lot of the other criteria, be weighted. Their application might be weighted more than an existing event that's been deemed now to be sustainable.
Yep.
So we hadn't had that I don't think we've had that conversation subsequent to last year's
You're right. Yeah.
applications. So that might be something that a couple of other points we might want to talk about before we
Submit a release.
decide how much.
Release.
how many hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, I think we're under a little bit of a time
I don't
constraint. though.
disagree.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the upside limit here is 100. We got to take advantage of Kyle while he's here to get it out on the street and move it forward. It's hard to predict who's going to apply. We've had an Irish festival across the street, different sponsor in the past. I would suggest that there are two separate applications. One for the festival, if that's what you're calling it, and one for the parade. And then you would go through a review of them. But I think I'm feeling like we're late. And that the parade is March. So by the time we get through this, it's usually December. These people need to know if they've got money or they don't.
Are we late?
No, honestly, we're a little early. We usually try to get it out by November and have the applications due December.
I'm feeling late.
And I know that Joe,
You
Joe,
know-
you probably have some input about this issue of sustainability. And I think this conversation devolved into details and EMTs and the fire department. A lot of things that we haven't talked about since last time.
Just the
Do you-
review criteria.
I was
You
gonna say,
probably saw it, but I think your thing isn't here about sustainability. It can be construed that way, substantial benefit to the
Can you pull up-
atmospheric economy.
can you pull up the requirements?
My recollection is that sustainability was somewhat subjective. At least in our, historical deliberations about who
And
gets
then
money.
wouldn't it be fun to have something new?
I recall the conversation, Joe, and it was about, look, we got them off their feet. They got going off their feet. Seaside Festival,
Doesn't continue on forever and
yeah.
at some point, you better.
Right, I mean.
Yeah, but the reason they are successful is that we maintain their sustainability. Without us, they are not sustainable.
Right.
And I think some of those categories we found, but then there are others where this is just a kickstart, a boost. Get them going, get them off the ground. That was, I recall, Joe, the discussion
Yeah.
we had, which was a really important one.
And both sides of that definition, I think, are appropriate. We just
Absolutely.
had it was kind of hard, and I had just joined. And there was, to Tom's point, there was events that were not going to get what they were asking for. And yet there were others that were around since I was 5, that
Right.
were deemed to still not be sustainable. So that's where I was confused.
Right, and I think with some of that too, is that you have the events like the parade and like Seaside Festival, which are free. Anybody can just show up and go to it and do it. Then we also have events that have a gate and you need to pay to go to those events. So I think that those should be looked at a little bit differently too. As far as the public benefit, parade, Seaside Festival, maybe even some other stuff where it's just open. You're just attracting that mass opposed to, and I'm all for getting new events. I think that we should look at it. There is sustainability and look at new events, old events, what events have a gate, which don't have a gate. So I think that there's a lot of different things that we should look at. And then a lot of it too is that I know at least with the parade and the Seaside Festival, the cost of doing business with the town of Yarmouth is one of the biggest checks getting written are back to the town. And that's not necessarily the case with a lot of these other smaller events. And I know, we can get into basically we supplanted the grant money back to the town. Well, we can make that argument all day long too, but, so that it's, when you look at, say, like a pirate festival, which is awesome, and a parade, it's two totally different beasts. So I think, and it's hard to, I think for us, it's hard to look at, there's so many different variables. How do you put up that on paper? How do you decide? How do you do that? And the parade and like Seaside, those are big budgets too. It's only a fraction of what we're giving them, the support.
Is there a way for us to put a point of decision in front of them as part of their application, where they then go into one of those smaller buckets? For instance, of profit and with a gate or without a gate? Is there a way that we can have them self-qualify into helping us make the decisions, because now we've got a subset?
Well, if you look at the budgets that they submit, I mean, there is income that comes into the Seaside Festival. They charge everybody for the tent. So the vendors don't go in for free, do they, Joe?
No.
No. For the parade, they have sponsors, they have fundraising events. So there's other income coming in that might necessarily be an individual ticket. So there's
Yeah, no,
other sources of income, I think, is where we want to look generally. How are you funding the rest of it? And that's where it gets really difficult to kind of segregate
Good.
different kinds of projects, because they're getting their money from all different sources.
I know, and
Some are
sorry,
tickets and some aren't.
and this is where to have some guidance in terms of the granular aspect of this committee and its role would be helpful, because to the earlier discussion, now we're identifying certain priorities over others, and we're gonna be upsetting other people that, have equal claim to receive some of this money, so.
Kyle, is there anything in the application process prior to submittal that would negate anything that anybody's talking about on the table here? In other words, we would still have, given the existing application criteria that we have, we would still, as a group, have the ability to make decisions on sustainability. Yes.
Yeah, I'd say that falls into, you're supposed to kind of look at different kind of narrative, whatever bucket you want to call it. I mean, that's still event logistics and management, in my opinion, and the financial management. I would just say in the past, the whole profit versus nonprofit discussion has come up before. The committee has always decided that they didn't really want to take, at the time, new committee, if you guys want to change the rules, up to you. They didn't want to take that in consideration because they just wanted to look at what was going to be most beneficial to the town of Yarmouth, what was going to bring in visitors to the town of Yarmouth, what was going to be good for the Yarmouth community, which I guess the profit versus nonprofit could be factored into the latter part maybe, and the first part, but that was kind of the history.
Okay, my only concern is that we don't wait too much longer to get the process started, because before you know it, it'll be the holidays and we won't have started anything. But that said, I still think we have the latitude to deal with issues about sustainability. In fact, I think we kind of told people, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, this isn't going on forever, right?
Yep. You tell
So
them
we
that every
kind of-
year. Yeah.
kind of laid the law down a little within the last year.
Yeah, to your point, you can look at sustainability in your own individual reviews of the application space.
And Mary's got a question. I was just bringing this up last time because I don't want to spend a lot of time on this.
No,
And I don't think any of us want to spend a lot of time on this. So if we had more clear direction, we could get through it really quickly and move on to what it is we all came.
So
I
out of
shouldn't
this,
say it that way, but you know what I'm saying.
okay, one more question, and I know Mary's waiting. So does the committee as a whole, okay, well then.
and I think we, prior to you all coming on board, we did a lot of work in streamlining it. And last, before you all got on board, it was people coming in and it's over and over and over. So we streamlined a lot of that. I think we can do it more. But I think we at least get the process started now. Then we can deal with those issues. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Maybe the one thing the committee might want to consider is the survey that you guys use. So it was something that we came up with years ago to try to track the economic impact that an event has,
Right.
because that is a huge reason why this committee has the funding, right? While the parade and Seaside Festival may not be sustainable, they are the two largest events in this town that attract people here that ultimately spend money, staying in the hotels, going to the restaurants, going to the retail shops. But I think that survey, and Kyle can maybe talk to this, maybe not. When we get that data, what do you guys do with it? Do you ever look at it? Do you analyze it? Is that something maybe you want to look at that 5-question survey that's required of these events? And I can tell you how some of those surveys are done, you might want to look at.
I'd love to look at it. They're
Because-
submitted as a fall after the fact.
Yes, or during the event. Everybody does it a little differently. Some people do it
Yeah.
online, some people have people walking around an event. So to maybe track your economic impact a little better, you might want to look at that 5-question survey and see if there's something you can change there. And then after the fact, analyze that data, not necessarily as one event, but as a whole. Just a suggestion.
Okay,
Those are always included as part of the final report, which are sent out with the application. So you should be looking at the final reports and the survey data from the events the year before to inform your decisions for next year, kind of thing. If you guys want to look at the survey, by all means, go ahead.
Where is that?
I could send it out if you guys want to look at it. I mean, the only thing is my last day with the town's on Friday. If you guys banter around the survey, I'm not gonna be able to get it out before then. Up to you guys.
this is survey from the, not this year, from the year prior that you're talking about.
I think you're talking about surveys going forward if you want to.
I think, I guess I missed the beginning of the meeting.
I
Wherever.
was gonna get deal with that at the end.
But anyway, I just think we just do it, we send out what we have now, but I think, and then just have access to the previous survey data. And that'll just give us a better sense of what to ask or what to look for when we're reviewing the new applications as well.
Yeah. So
So that's a great idea, Mary.
I think too, maybe in January, we should put on the agenda to actually discuss the whole process. So now we're gonna go through it in December, we're gonna review everything, we're gonna look at everybody's end of the year reports. Then might be the time where it's all fresh in our mind is revamping it in January for actually sending it out next October. So that way it's like fresh in our minds. I know I have a bunch of notes written down somewhere from the last process, and it's like, all right, so now we're just kind of almost a year later. So maybe when it's just right fresh in our mind, go do that. I think also maybe too, when we go to make our allocation for town meeting is maybe, if we, like last year, what we did get like twice as much request for things is, maybe we allocate $110,000 next year and, balance it out a little bit. Maybe it's more of a setup. It's been 100,000 for a long time. So maybe it is time to up it. Maybe it's time to lower it, but
I only say, don't disagree with what you're saying, I'm just gonna say this for your information is, we wanna do some of these incentive programs, economic development programs, that tourism pot of money is gonna be a valuable resource for us, so. That's all. So,
I move that we send it out.
yes.
I agree.
We need-
Up to 100, right?
Yes.
You know, do you need a motion on that?
No.
No. Everyone?
Yeah,
All right, good.
Oh, while we're on that topic, before I forget, the Yarmouth New Church had a question about their tourism grant. The tourism grant from last year, you guys gave them $5,000, but it was only to be used for marketing of their events. If you recall, they kind of have a year-round program, much like the Cultural Center. They wanted to know if they could use their grant to create a brochure to market them for weddings. There's a wedding venue in Yarmouth. Their thinking is that provides a big economic benefit for Yarmouth because it brings more people in. I would say I'm not really sure that would be an appropriate grant expenditure. It wasn't on their original application. They didn't really talk about it. And that kind of opens you guys up for, any wedding venue could then, apply for some sort of grant for weddings, but totally up to you guys.
Kyle ran it by me, and I said no, but I wanted to get your
Yeah.
input on.
I agree with Kyle. No.
I agree. I agree with Kyle.
All right, thank you.
Okay, bye. Beautification team discussion.
I know I'd asked for this the last time. I know we have $20,000 allocated to it.
Yep.
And I believe it's just been staffing issues is what's caused it. I just know now, like when I drive down 28 right now, there's weeds growing up all the way down the curb cut. Other than there are several businesses that take care of it.
Yeah.
But it's bad in front of even all the town properties on Route 28 too.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's something is, maybe we could just take some of the money under like the bid threshold is what, like, what's best for business practices now?
10.
20,000, 10, even 10, and just like, maybe we take some of that money and, put out just what are you gonna do, the 3 quotes or whatever,
Yeah, you don't even need to do that for under 10.
or under 10, just to have weed whacking done down 28
Yeah.
twice a summer maybe, or I just kind of wanted to open the discussion up. It just looks like, it doesn't look I mean, maybe other places too. We just have the money, we haven't used it through whatever, so I'm just throwing it out for other options.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a thought to be shared. The beautification team has done their job, and when they're finished, that town is a lot more beautiful, as everyone knows. Maybe some of the funds could be allocated into a little educational program where we could maybe like adopt a curb program from the property owners. Bayside, Cove, a few other places, they manage to take care of their curbs, adopt them, and keep the weeds out. And maybe we can have a relationship with some of these owners by sending them the education about how our town looks better if we just not stop mowing the grass at the sidewalk, but just adopt the curb a little bit too and pluck the weeds out. It could be just a simple fact of, education and hopefully that, some of the people do the right thing now and they do it on their own. Some other people, you have to lead them a little bit to get to where we all want to be. And then the beautification team can also, if there's less on 28, they can spend, like the island at Willow Street. It's just ridiculous sometimes. Some of the other places in town never get attention because we're all worried about Route 28. But if we ask our property owners with a letter from the Economic Development Committee, go into the property and say, look, we're developing this program. You can do whatever you want inside of it, but the bottom line, it makes us all look better. So that's just a thought, Mr. Chairman.
No, I like that idea with the letter, and just think that letter could be mailed out with the billing that goes out. In town as well. Let's pursue that one. Let's not forget that, but I do think, Mary, one second, is we should probably get an update. I know the DPW head was in charge of this program, and he had reasons why he wasn't getting the people to do the work that he had prior years. A lot of it had to do with COVID, so maybe we can get an update from him as well, but yeah, we gotta do something more. Agreed.
I was gonna say, similar to what Tom was talking about, there's a curb appeal program that the state has done. And I know that there's data that we've tried to give out to the business owner to say, if your curb appeal is more attractive, you increase your business because more people will come in. So I think maybe if you do decide to write that letter, include that in there, that might be helpful. And
Okay.
again, another incentive that this is helping to grow your business.
And I have one more, the sheriff's department.
They get some requests, but yeah, you can ask him. Always ask him.
I used to work there, so I
They
never
don't
heard.
do it anymore? No, they don't do it.
Well, are you sure?
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest to send a letter.
Well, I
to the
know, and I know
town
they
itself.
stopped it for COVID, but,
No, even before COVID, they stopped.
Okay. We'll follow up. Okay.
it's actually called a curb appeal program, Mary?
Years ago it was, yeah.
Okay.
Let's not use round.
We get 3 people.
Oh, I think we just get a torch, go down the
Right,
street.
there you go.
torch.
Item 6, we got
I'm
review
kidding.
of past meeting minutes. September 13th, 2022. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Can we get a second?
Oh, second.
I'm sorry, second.
Oh, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
Committee member staff updates, go around the horn. Joe?
2 meetings ago, I went to the broadband
Oh,
presentation.
wait.
So, a couple of things struck me. I haven't really come off my thought about broadband being like another monorail for a lot of municipalities. There was some discussion about available funding, the last mile program being mentioned. But I get a sense that Verizon's not necessarily too motivated to come to Yarmouth. They sort of stopped well before the bridge in their interest in our area. And they've had decades to change their strategy about the Cape. And the fact that there might be some money available now seems to have brought them to the table. But I don't know that last mile is applicable to our town. Last mile is an area that's devoid of internet access, which we are not. We are just monopolized. But there's very few areas, I think, of any in town that don't have access to internet. So that wouldn't necessarily qualify. They were also suggesting in that meeting that, and I'm just looking at the finances for now, that there might be some ARPA money available in terms of what the state was going to allocate to broadband. When I posed the question of whether or not they had any inclination from their lobbyists as to whether or not that was going to happen, it kind of seemed a little far-fetched for me. They said they didn't have any information about what the state was going to do with that money, which I found hard to believe that Verizon would know exactly where the ARPA money was headed. The other piece of it is that I think that the infrastructure in town, from what I understand, doesn't necessarily lend itself to a wide area network that we wouldn't have to be significantly involved in retrofitting a lot of the power lines, meaning the light fixtures. And I don't know that that's a viable option for the town either. I think, and I may, you know,
Well,
they were kind of talking over my head.
that last part that you're referencing is actually a project that Ed has been working on for quite a while with Siemens, that basically there'd be some sort of light dimming projects, and the money saved from the light dimming you could use to upgrade the stuff to get some sort of, microwavable it's above my head too,
So retrofitting the poles with new light fixtures would allow them to at the same time place
Right.
some wireless
Right.
on the pole. And that would give residential neighborhoods that are currently covered by Comcast or Xfinity, would give them access to another provider. But the town would be on the hook for maintaining the fixtures and the Wi-Fi. And it would create a whole.
I don't know about that. I think that's why we're talking about to Verizon. Verizon would then.
It was unclear as to who was going to be
It
responsible.
certainly
for
won't be
going
the
up
town. The
pole
town will not be, we
in
don't have
February
the.
to fix that access. So that was, aside from the technical aspect of it, which they didn't really get into.
No.
I think that's kind of what I heard in the presentation.
There's a discussion to be continued.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. It seemed like a inaugural discussion, right?
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Really? Joe?
Two things. One, next Monday, RAC, Water Resources Advisory Committee, will be holding a public listening information session on the status of all the contracts. It'll be at the Cultural Center at 5 p.m. And that's important because that section of town now is first up. In terms of the sequencing of 28, the section that was from the Barnstable line to Parker's River, which is what we call the DOT project, because DOT is coming in and replacing all of 28 sidewalk to sidewalk, kind of front to back. And that project, their contracts have been delayed. So we are going to move forward with continuing to go east. And the next phase is from Parker's River to the bridge. As part of that, there will be this meeting at the Cultural Center. And it's important because one of the primary locations for a main water, the sewer line is right up Old Main Street. So that it will be affecting directly people, residences in that community. So that is Monday. Also,
Sorry, Joe, that's a change of phasing that we're talking about.
yeah, the
Because
phase number is the same. It's just what are we doing? What the state contract has been delayed. So we've asked CDM Smith to move ahead with that section, the next section that we know can go. Obviously, the very first thing they're doing is the plant. That's the very first thing. Got to build the plant first. But in terms of, in roadway, dig it up, lay the pipe, this is going to be the first section of town that would be effective. And then Kyle had sent out to all of us that on Wednesday, the 19th, next week, the planning board will be holding a public hearing on a petition article for the special town meeting on accessory dwelling units.
Okay. Where's that meeting
That'll be in the here, it'll be right here.
at? Question for you. Commission. Do we have the, pilot, for lack of a better term, pilot bylaw that was going to be sunsetted after a certain date for accessory
Nope,
use?
we have bylaw on it as ADUs, and we've had it for years. And they're related to two kinds of occupancies. One, a family member, and two, affordable. This petition is one that would make ADUs by right, meaning you wouldn't have to fulfill those two circumstances to have a request considered by the zoning board of appeals.
Right.
They've also asked for an increase in the square footage that would be allowed, and some other things. So we have it, and we have ADUs. ADUs will be up on the calendar for the zoning board of appeals this week. I see them at least once a month on the zoning board of appeals. We have them and we've had them for years, and people are getting them legitimately, but they have certain restrictions on the occupants and whether or not the owner of the property needs to be in one of either of the two buildings. If there are
Right.
two buildings.
But I thought it was sunsetted if the town was going to.
You might be thinking of the short-term rental bylaw that was just.
That's what I'm thinking.
Tom, did you have something you wanted to say?
If I could.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to bring the sand sculpture up the trail, the sand sculpture trail up to date from our last conversation. We had a business had to have their sand sculpture removed for some carpenter work, and the owner of the applicant, which is the Great Island Bakery, the next door to the gelato place, I was in conversation with the owner, and they had it's on my phone. I don't have my phone with me, but they had said that the sand sculpture had brought in a lot of new customers this year, and they were very pleased to see everyone taking photos of it. So I just thought that was extremely important to share with the group. And also, I think Thursday we have a marketing meeting that will be taught at 10 o'clock or something. 9 a.m. If anybody wants to come, we'll be discussing the sand sculpture trail wrap up. If anybody's interested in joining that meeting, but that was the first sand that was removed, and the business owner was extremely happy this season. That was the first one. Yeah, that was the first one. So they were extremely happy, and they're excited to do it again. So, thank you.
Thank you. Good.
Mary has.
Mary?
I just wanted to let you know, and I did email Kyle on that. I met with a representative from Open Cape last week, and CCYP has received funding from the Mass Growth Capital Corp. And they have grants, $4,675 for small businesses to connect to fiber.
Their rates are ridiculous.
No, actually, Steve said from Open Cape that that would cover. the
Okay,
connection.
I would just, as somebody who worked with them before, I would be just very cautious about the interest rates that they charge.
Okay, so.
Mass Growth Capital is
Oh, through them.
through them.
Okay, so anyway, I just want you to be aware that CCYP does have the funding, and I thought it was very interesting, so the chamber reached out to them today to try to see if we can get more information, because I think it's very interesting. I mean, it's money to offer some of these small businesses on 28 that cannot process a credit card in the month of August, when they've got a line of customers standing there. So just, Joe, just so that you know that funding is there, and as I get more information, I'll pass it on to this committee.
Okay, thank you, Mary. And next meeting is November 8th, 2022. With that said, I want to say one other thing. I don't know, you may not all know, but Friday is Kyle's last day. I don't know a lot about Kyle, but what I do know of him, he's been fantastic employee with the town. He's been a hell of a person to have as a staffer here to this committee. A lot of this stuff, I'll say outright, couldn't be done without him at the helm. So I really appreciate the work he's done here and wish him the best. He's going to be going to the town of
Pleasure working with you guys.
Barnstable, Dan and Ottawa. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We expected to be a town manager there someday.
No, thanks.
Knows better.
Yeah.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?